Ex-IWF president Tamas Ajan steals even more money, Team Uzbekistan destroys their online weightlifting competition, and Dmytro Chumak hits the fattest of totals. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Weightlifting House News Show, the only weightlifting news show in the world. So let's jump straight in with the extra news on corruption regarding Tamas Ajan, the old president of the IWF. ARD, the German TV channel that broke this whole IWF corruption story, has now made a further claim against Tamas Ajan, saying that after he resigned as president, he then withdrew an additional 356,000 euros, that's around 435,000 US dollars, from an IWF bank account, which basically represents his entire annual salary plus an additional 6,000 euros, 7,000 US dollars. So one of the things that's interesting about this is that we get to find out how much he made as the IWF president. I mean, 356,000 euros, 435,000 US dollars is a ton of money. But then for him to have the cheek to be expelled from the federation after, all of these allegations of him manhandling money in ways that weren't okay, to then steal even more money, his annual salary plus some, is just exasperating news for weightlifters around the world. So now the IWF, currently under the leadership of the USA's Ursula Garza Papandreou, are kind of working out whether or not they want to take legal action against Tamas Ajan once again, just to recover this money along with this extra 10.4 million US dollars that is also unaccounted for because of Tamas. And so though it looks like law enforcement agencies in Hungary, where the IWF used to be, and now in Switzerland, where the IWF currently now is, are going to take further action, it seems as though the IWF itself is also going to take further action. Originally, it was agreed that after Tamas Ajan resigned, or was forced to resign, he would retain an honorary role as an ambassador of the sport, which kind of seems ridiculous now, looking back at everything he's done. But they've done the right thing. The IWF has decided that that role has now going to be sort of withdrawn from Tamas Ajan. So Ursula Papandreou is going to continue to lead the IWF as the interim president until at least the start of 2021. And then it's hoped that at that point, it will be possible to elect a permanent president for our sport. Okay, so enough of the bad news. Let's go straight into some of the good news, because there was a phenomenal competition that happened. It was the second online competition that we've seen since this whole pandemic has begun. And the name of the competition is a bit of a mouthful. It is the first online International Weightlifting Cup dedicated to the Independence Day of Uzbekistan. And I'm kind of surprised that they even had to call it the first one of these, because there certainly haven't been any other online international weightlifting cups dedicated to the Independence Day of Uzbekistan. But even so, they felt the need to put the first in there. And it turned out to be a really great competition. A lot of returning world championships, world medalists, even world record holders competing at this competition. And some extraordinary totals were put forward. Some totals that might have won at the world championships last year, or certainly would have medaled. We even saw a kind of a reshuffling of a few of the categories, particularly this 109 kilo category that almost seemed like it was on lock as to who was going to place where and when at the Olympics. But it seems that some of the lifters who are slightly a further way down are going to move up. Some of the lifters near the top might come down. So we're going to get into all of that right now. It is worth mentioning that for those of you who are excited, looking forward to seeing some of your favourite lifters like Kate Nye or Boyanka Kostova, they did not compete. I'm not quite sure what happened. I haven't heard from Kate about this, but she was on the starting list and then it just turned out that she wasn't there to lift. But worth mentioning as well, this is not an Olympic qualifier. This doesn't count towards qualification for Tokyo. There are no Roby points involved, and you can kind of understand why. I mean, just the fact that there is no way other than through pinky promises to decide whether or not people are doping at these competitions, whether there was any level of doping control. So I think it's pretty fair that this is just an online competition to help the best athletes get their competition legs back under themselves. So in the 55 kilo class from the women, Kazakhstan's Zulfiya Chinshanlo, one of the more well-known weightlifters, I guess one of the more well-known infamous weightlifters too, the 2012 London Olympic champion who lost her title after being popped. Also the three-time world champion 2009, 2011, 2014 in front of her home crowd in Almaty. went 85-115 at this competition. So she's down kind of 10 to 15 kilos on her lifts, of her best ever lifts, I should say. She's done somewhere around 98-127-ish. So to be at 85-115, decent lifting, but clearly that ban and the resulting, I guess, focus on her and her lifting and testing is really kind of playing with what she's able to do in competition. China's 59 kilo Luo Xiaomin had a phenomenal meet. She went 100-125 in this 59 kilo class. Now, 100 kilos is a weight that she's actually surpassed in every single one of her Olympic qualifiers. She's so far, I believe, competed in 4, none yet in this third qualifying period, so she actually ranks quite a way down in that 59 kilo class, though really after the Asian Championships coming up, she'll move straight back up into one of the highest slots. But even so, she has outsnatched this 100. She's done 101, 102, 103 over the last couple of years. But this 125 that she hit is a competition PR. We've never seen her do that much. So this is a sign, I imagine, of great things to come. And it also looked like Luo Xiaomin was one of the only Chinese weightlifters to turn up in really good shape. Most of the others, I would say, lifted slightly subpar, except perhaps for Tian Fuxuan, but we'll get to him in due course. The 71 kilo class for the women was very exciting, so I want to go through the top 3 performances there because they're all suddenly worth shouting out. The first, USA's Meredith Alwine, she went 4 for 6, opened at 93, missed her second at 97, had the courage to then jump up to 100, which she made, which I think is only 3 kilos under a competition best. She then opened at 128, missed 132, missed 132 again. I guess, in fact, she actually went 3 for 6 on second thoughts, not 4 for 6. And that gave her third place with a 228 kilo total. In second place, and we don't often see this person in second place, except when perhaps it's at a major World Championships event, it's Loredana Toma from Romania. Now, she actually had a pretty decent meet, at least in the snatch. She went 3 for 3, 100, 105, 110. And these are the numbers that we expect from Loredana basically every time she steps on a platform. She hit 110 in training the other day. She's outsnatched 110 several times now in competition. So this is pretty standard for her, but still right at the top of what's possible in this weight category. In the clean and jerk, she went 120, which is an easy opener for her. I filmed her doing complexes at 120. Then 126 on a second attempt, jumped to 131, which is 5 kilos under her best ever from Rome, that 136 that she did back in February. But she ended up missing the 131, so she ended up with a 236 kilo total for the silver medal, and was astonishingly beaten by Ting Huang, who went 5 for 6, 98, 103, 108, so 2 kilos behind after the snatch, behind Loredana. But in the clean and jerk, she's just a little bit stronger. Opened up at 128. That immediately gave her the draw on the total. She then went for 133. That gave her the lead. And then 137, an attempt, but didn't quite make it. So she ended up totaling 241 kilos, 5 kilos more than Loredana. The 81 kilo women saw the return of one of my absolute favourite weightlifters from Australia, Eileen Cikamatana, who I have filmed before. There's a video of her, a full training session competition of her, available on the Weightlifting House YouTube channel / Patreon for the training session, I believe. She's a phenomenal athlete. She's trying currently to be able to qualify for the Olympics. Having moved country during this whole qualification period, she wasn't eligible to gain points for Australia for quite a long period. So she doesn't actually have enough Roby points to qualify. So at the moment, she and her team are trying to get her in a position where the IWF gives her one of these wild cards and allows her to go and compete. But in the meantime, she's just out there kicking ass and taking names. She went 5 for 6, 105, 110, 115 in the snatch. Huge snatch from Eileen. Then 135, opener clean jerk, missed 145 in a second on this jerk, and then made it on her third attempt. So right now she's still not eligible, but hopefully she's going to get herself to Tokyo. Big lifts again from the men's 67 kilo category. So again, I'm just going to go through the top 3. In third place, a lot of you guys may know, representing Team Mash Mafia, we have Ryan Grimsland. He had a phenomenal meet. He went 130, 161. I believe 130 is right there around his best ever snatch. He certainly hit 130 in training before. Whether he's done it in competition, I'm not sure. The 161 may well have been an all-time PR for him in the clean and jerk. Certainly the 291 kilo total was. So at one of his first, I suppose, international senior events, this actually turns out to be a podium spot for him. Then in the silver medal, we have someone who is well known as being, or often regarded as being, the fastest weightlifter of all time. He certainly looks pretty quick, and I think his donkey kick maybe adds to how quick he actually is. But even so, we have Luis Mosquera from Colombia. He went 140, 170, slightly down on numbers we've seen in the past. I mean, we've seen him literally power clean as much as, 180 kilos in previous competitions. But still, 140, 170 is solid for him. That gave him the silver medal. But really, it was Adkhamjon Ergashev who absolutely destroyed it. Ergashev is a guy who I have been increasingly enjoying watching in the weightlifting world. Of course, he competes for Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan hosted this meet and they destroyed this meet. But he just did so phenomenally well. He's a young lifter, only 21 years of age, and he just went 147 in the snatch, 183 in the clean and jerk. That's a 330 kilo total. The world record in the clean and jerk, I believe, is held by Pak Jong-ju at 188 kilos. So this is just, 5 kilos below that world record. This as a total would have taken bronze at the World Championships last year. He's only 21. It's a PR total. It's a PR in the snatch and the clean and jerk by a kilo also. So right now, everything is going very well for Ergashev. The super heavy category for the women was an interesting one. Not only did we have USA's Jessie Bradley competing, who is certainly not a super heavyweight. She must have weighed in at something like 81.01. I think there wasn't an 87 kilo category. So she probably just had to weigh slightly over 81 to be able to compete. And then we saw the strongest female weightlifter in the world, the current world record holder, world champion, Wenwen, also competing. So Jessie Bradley did well for her. She actually had a really good performance. She opened up at 103 kilos in the snatch, which is right there around her best ever snatching competition. I believe she's done 104. She hit that 103 and then jumped straight to 107 kilos for 2 attempts at a personal record, but she missed both. She then hit 133 kilos in the clean and jerk, took an attempt, I believe it was 139 kilos in the clean and jerk, managed to clean it, and very close to the jerk too. She got under it, locked out, then one of her elbows buckled. Similar story with the snatch. She got under it, held it for a few seconds. She has a tremendous amount of hip flexion when she snatches. She was incredibly deep in the bottom of the 107, but just couldn't quite hold it. But anyway, 103, 133, so close to 107, 139, I think it was. But she'll get there soon. And then over to the big dog in that category, it's Wenwen, 19-year-old world champion, world record holder in the snatch, clean and jerk and total. And she had a really underwhelming competition. She opened at 120 in the snatch. Bear in mind, we saw a snatch 148 kilos very recently. She opened at 120. That's right around 81% of that snatch. And she missed it. She then went 120 again. She made it. Looked pretty easy. And she made it. 125, made it. So she's already down by over 20 kilos on what we've seen from her in the past. In the clean and jerk, 150, 155, 160. Not quite the 190 that I was maybe hoping we might see from her in 2020. I don't think there's going to be another opportunity for her to do it, and clearly she's not really in the shape to be doing this. As far as I know, the Chinese have taken a huge kind of off-season period doing, well, you guys have seen it on Instagram, they're doing ball throws and slams and bikes and jumps, all of the weirdest kind of stuff. So I don't think the Chinese are in the best shape that they've been in before. But anyway, this 125, 160 kind of shows that sometimes our heroes are actually not always capable of doing heroic things. Now, was the men's 89 kilo class the most exciting 89 kilo class and session ever? I think it may well have been. 89 kilos is a non-Olympic category, and for that reason, oftentimes there aren't the best weightlifters there turning up competing against each other. But at this online competition, the 81s were just weighing in heavy, and so that 89 kilo class was phenomenal. We had Andranik Karapetyan from Armenia versus Ritvar Suharevs, Keydomar Venilla, and Sarvarbek, who you guys might be wondering, who is this guy? And the truth is, who the hell knows? But you're going to know about him after this competition. So let's go through from fourth to first. Andranik Karapetyan, who's well known for being one of the best snatchers in the world. I mean, he snatched over 170 kilos as a 77, who, no one did that except for Lou for a long period of time. So he's one of the best snatchers. He went 160, 165, just missed 170. So great snatching from him. He's not been in great shape for the last year. He's certainly not really been in a phenomenal shape since he snapped his elbow up when he competed in 2016, I think it was. He then in the clean and jerk went 190, clean 200 twice very easily. But again, that elbow from that elbow snappage that happened a few years ago is just always seems to be the thing that prevents him from hitting that proper heavy total. So unfortunately for Karapetyan, he ended up taking fourth with 165, 190. In third place, the guy that we've been speaking about quite a lot recently, just because he's been on the app. He snatched 170 recently for PR. He clean and jerk 205. He's looking phenomenal. We have Ritvar Suharevs from Latvia, and he lifted okay. 155, 161, took a stab at 65 and missed it. So he ended up with a snatch of 161, which isn't enough to medal at the Olympics or the World Championships, but it's consistently consistent for him. In the clean and jerk, 195 opener, very easy, very matter of fact, as you'd imagine. Jumped to 202, I presume, for a medal spot, but missed it. Jumped then again up to 205 because, well, I guess he just wanted to get those hello yellows on the bar. He cleaned it, probably just lost a little bit of air, held it, and ended up dropping the bar. His coach, you can see in the video, his coach was right there trying to get him to make the lift, but unfortunately he just loses air and kind of blacks out and loses it. But anyway, 161, 195 for Ritvar. I'm sure he'll be disappointed, but even so, pretty good lifting from the Latvian. Okay, so next we have Sarvarbek Zafarjanov. Who? I don't know. He's amazing though. So he is incredibly yoked. He just snatched 168. He just clean and jerked 205. And if it wasn't for a phenomenal performance from Keydomar Venilla, he would have won this completely. So this is another Uzbek lifter. Like I said, this is an Uzbek competition. They hosted it, and they really came in hard at this competition. And Zafarjanov worked up. He went 160, 165, 168. I'm going to call him an 89. There's no way he's an 81. He's too yoked to be an 81. But 168 looked great. He then 195, 205. He jumped a huge 10 kilos in the clean and jerk between his opener and his second attempt. Made that. Then he actually had 207 there and ready to go. But I think it was after Keydomar Venilla decided, or Keydomar hit his 207, Zafarjanov just kind of realized there's no point in me going for it. I'm not going to win. I'm only going to equal or be a couple of kilos below because of the snatch. And so he passed on his third attempt. But to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Zafarjanov comes back in the future and something like 210 is there for him, 170, 210. I mean, he catches the 168 snatch with room. He rides it down. It's not like he fixates it and stops moving instantly. There's space there. So I don't know much about this guy. I'll try and learn as much as I can and let you guys know. But right now, Sarvarbek Zafarjanov, phenomenal. Okay, and taking gold at this competition, we had Keydomar Venilla. He's one of the guys that I've been following for a long time. He was, I believe, the junior, or still is, the junior world record holder in the 89 kilo class in the clean and jerk, 204 kilos, I believe, if I remember correctly. I also showed a video of him a few weeks ago, front squatting 280 on the Weightlifting News Show, if that jogs you guys' memory somewhat. But he went 163, 167, 170. The bar starts going behind, he outruns it, stays underneath it, somehow gets it up, and he's pretty hyped about that. Then 204 miss, 204 make, 207 make for the gold medal. He has utter pistons for legs. I mean, he stands it up like nobody's business, which you'd certainly imagine you would be able to do if you could front squat 280 kilos. But even so, Keydomar Venilla is living up to the hype as being the 89 kilo lifter of the future. Up to the men's 102, we had Boady versus Tian, but not Tian Tao. Boady Santavy from Canada, Canada's best ever weightlifter, had a great meet. He only took 4 attempts, and he got a PR total by some way. 175 open on the snatch, 180 on his second attempt. Bear in mind, the world record is 186. That 180 is the most we've ever seen from him in competition. So he hits that 180, and then he passes on the third. I wonder if part of the reason for that, they opened heavy, they wanted him to have 2 attempts, perhaps at 180. He made it on his first, and they thought, you know what, we don't need you to do 185. You know, we kind of want to hide that from people, and we also don't want to put you in a position where you might actually miss a lift. So he hit 180, then passed on his third. In the clean and jerk, 205 opener, which is strong opener for Boady, up to 210, a kilo or 2 below his all-time best, and then he just passed on his third attempt again. He ended up taking the silver medal with that 390 kilo total, 6 kilo PR total for Boady, but beating him was Tian Fuxuan. Now, for those of you who don't know Tian, hopefully there'll be a link here so you can see him on Instagram, you'll be able to follow him. He is a 96 kilo lifter, never quite got the fame that Tian Tao got because he's not as good as Tian Tao. But he doesn't give you as many heart attacks as Tian Tao. Tian Heart Attack Tao is a 2-for-6 lifter, sets 2 world records in the meantime. Tian Fuxuan is a 6-for-6 lifter and just gets the job done. And this day, Tian ended up going 175, 216. He went 6-for-6. He moved up to this with 216 kilos third attempt just to try and get the gold medal in the total and beat Boady Santavy. I guess this is one of his first proper international wins, and he took the gold, 391 kilos in the total. Perhaps what we're going to see is after the Olympics, Tian Fuxuan move up to the 102 kilo class, because if he's able to add a few kilos on this total and go from 175 216 to perhaps 180 222, he might be the guy who controls that 102 kilo class in the coming quad, ahead in the weight classes of Tian Tao. And now let's wrap this competition up with what turned out to be another truly phenomenal and category reshuffling type of competition. It was the 109 kilo class, and we saw guys like world record holder Yang Zhe from China. We saw Dmytro Chumak from Ukraine, Arturs Plesnieks from Latvia, and then one of my favorite 109s, the upcoming, soon to be, potentially the best in that category, from Uzbekistan, Akbar Djuraev. So in fourth place, I guess to no surprise really, was Arturs Plesnieks from Latvia, and he did decently. He went 176, 217. But taking the bronze medal, I think to everybody's surprise, considering that actually this is the guy who sits atop at least this group of athletes in that 109 kilo class, China's Yang Zhe. He went 170, 180, missed 190. And remember, he hit a new world record at 197 kilos at the World Championships this year. So he missed that 190. He ends with 180 in the snatch. In the clean and jerk, where he's always been the weaker kind of lifter, I suppose, he went 200, 210, 217, around 10 kilos below the weight that he got pinned with at the World Championships last year. He did make all of his clean and jerks, but they weren't the most amazing thing anyone's ever seen. So 397 kilos in the total for Yang Zhe. But in silver medal, this is where things get really exciting. In silver medal, you know what, I'm not even going to do it like this. I'm just going to go back and forth. So we've got Akbar Djuraev and we've got Dmytro Chumak. Now, to put these things into perspective, Akbar Djuraev holds a bunch of junior world records. Dmytro Chumak is about 10 years his senior. He's been on the block for a long time, but he's never really lifted anything more than 180, maybe 225. So at this competition, Dmytro Chumak opens at 180. He makes it. Djuraev, 184. The junior, the superstar. Chumak comes back out at 185, misses it. He comes back out again and he makes it. Djuraev then hits 189 and 194 for a new personal record for him, and that 194 is enormous. It's only 5 kilos below the most that we've seen any 109 hit in competition recently. So he's got a 9 kilo lead on Dmytro Chumak. In the clean and jerk, both open at 220 and both look really strong. Then Akbar Djuraev comes out at 226 and actually misses it. I think he hit 229 kilos at the World Championships last year, and he does look better now. So that 226 miss was surprising. But he comes back out again and he makes a 226. Then Dmytro Chumak, still with, I guess at this point, something like an 11, 12 kilo lead or deficit, comes out at 230 kilos just to get that all-time personal best under his belt, and he makes it. Then he jumps all the way to 236 kilos. This is a weight that nobody except for Simon Martirosyan has beaten in competition in this 109 kilo class since the category's inception. This is a monstrous lift. This is the sort of lift that would have easily taken the gold medal at the World Championships this year in the clean and jerk. And for something like an 11 kilo all-time personal best, Dmytro Chumak smashes 236 kilos. He is the chonkiest looking 109 kilo lifter ever. I have a photo with him. I might put it up, maybe here if I remember to send it to Alex to edit this in. I am about 6'1". Chumak is about 5'8", and he's 109 kilos and he's lean. He is so yoked, it's absurd. But he stands it up and he drives it over his head. I mean, phenomenal lifting. And like I said, this is the kind of performance that reshuffles the expectations of that 109 kilo class as we head towards Tokyo 2021. Everyone knows it's going to be Simon. Everyone that I've been telling thinks it's going to be Akbar Djuraev for number 2, but perhaps it's going to be Dmytro Chumak. Perhaps finally Dmytro Chumak is going to get that Olympic silver medal. Okay, and with that competition over, it's time to mention that the European Championships that was supposed to start in the 31st of October and then running something like up until the 10th of November has now been cancelled. So I guess that competition, it was supposed to be set in Moscow. It was actually an extension or a delay of last year's, the 2019 European Championships. They just realized it was going to be too difficult, too dangerous to kind of organize at this time. So they haven't announced when it's going to be, but realistically, it's going to be in April. It's going to be the same time that all of the other continental championships are going to be, which is nice because it's going to mean that we have, at that moment, in that month, just this unbelievable frequency of important competitions of the best lifters in the world as they all decide who's going to go to the Olympic Games. So, European Championships, postponed. Okay, so let's crack on with some of the top lifts from around the world this week that weren't in competition. And there weren't many of them, but they were extraordinary. The first one from Egypt, a lifter we haven't really heard in a while, Sara Samir. I think actually her full name is Sara Samir Ahmed. She's the 2016 Olympic bronze medalist in the 69 kilo category. She has competition best lifts, and I think it was from Rio, of 112, 143. Well, she just in training posted videos of a 121 kilo block snatch and a 150 kilo clean and jerk. And these lifts are so gutsy, they're really awesome to watch. She just throws herself under, very fast, very mobile, and gets up, very gritty kind of lifter. Now, the last few competitions that she's competed in, she was a 76 kilo lifter. And we haven't seen her compete in a while because, well, Egypt's been banned. Obviously, everything that came out with the Egyptian coaches who are now in jail, doping, all of that sort of stuff, Egypt is out of the equation. So we're not going to see her in Tokyo, and we're probably not going to see her for a few years. But even so, the 76 kilo world records, if that's where she actually is right now in bodyweight, are 124, 156. So her going 121, 150, she's very close. She also recently hit 180 kilos in training 2 in the front squat, which is absolutely absurd. The 71 kilo world records, if that's actually where she is, she was a 69, like I said, then she competed at 71 and then later 76. If she is a 71, the world records are 117, 152. So she's 4 kilos over in the snatch, 2 kilos under in the clean and jerk. I don't know. I don't even know if we're ever going to see her again, but Sara Samir, amazing lifts for us to be able to watch this week. And then finally from Egypt, we have the jokester. We have Hulk weightlifter Abdul Rahman, who never fails to do some of the most extraordinary complexes you'll ever see. This week it was a 200 kilo power clean plus hang clean plus push press, which is absolutely insane. At some point I'm going to have to upload some of the biggest push presses ever to show everyone. I was recently sent a video of, I believe it's Saeed Ali Husseini, the Iranian super who never was. Although he was to some extent, but he never really, reached the potential we all knew he could. There's a video of him, and I believe it's a 225 kilo power clean plus push press, which I don't think has been released, and I got sent it, and I need to tag the guy who gave it to me. But I'll post that at some point. But in the meantime, this 200 is going to have to do power clean plus hang clean plus push press. I don't know many lifters who could do more than that. I assume Lasher could. His 210 power clean, when he got it right, looked easy. And there's no way after a power clean at 210, he wouldn't be able to then hang clean it. But the push press at 210, I don't know. I've never really seen Lasher push the push press beyond anything over 180 kilos. He's incredibly strong. He probably can. He's always going to surprise me, but even so, who knows? Actually, while I think about it as well, guys, head over to the Weightlifting House Instagram account. We are getting closer and closer to 100,000 views. The videos are genuinely now the best weightlifting videos on Instagram. For the longest time, I was just taking a video and putting it up, very minimal editing. But now we have full movies. These are competitions. They're head-to-head battles with music and commentary coming in and out. They really are phenomenal videos. And I'd love to say it was down to my editing, but it's really not. I have someone else who's doing that right now, which has been very good for us. But even so, you can check out, hopefully here, maybe, or maybe I'm just doing this over white space. I don't know. It depends if this gets filled in with a lift. The video of Lasher and all the other guys who snatched 200 kilos or more at the World Championships last year. But really good update to the Instagram channel now. So hopefully you guys will subscribe to that. From Ecuador, 76 kilo Neisi Dajomes hit a really comfortable looking 100 kilo snatch in training this week. Now, she hasn't had a competition yet in the third qualifying period, so right now she's sitting some way down. But she has hit performances that look to be around the kind of 900 Roby point area. So once she does compete, presumably at, say, the Pan American Championships in 2021, she's going to be way up into the top 8 and likely qualify for the Olympics next year. From Belarus, I'm really, really excited to be able to talk again about Petr Asayonak, the ex-85 kilo weightlifter, 81 kilo weightlifter in the 2019 World Championships. I think he might have weighed in at a couple comps in 89 kilos, but I'm not sure. I want to say he's an 81 because it will make what's about to happen even the more extraordinary. Now, no one follows Petr Asayonak, and they should, because he's insane. This week, he just hit a 210 kilo clean and jerk in training. Now, if he is an 81, that's 3 kilos over the world record. If he's not an 81 and it turns out he's an 89, it's still more than any 89 has hit in competition since the inception of the new 89 kilo category. So it's huge. He also hit a 300 kilo back squat as posted by his heavier teammate Andrea Romna, who in the video starts doing his hair in the mirror very casually and then turns the camera to this insane 300 kilo back squat. Such are the funny things that go down in Belarusian training halls. But Petr Asayonak, 210 clean and jerk, extraordinary 300 kilo back squat, leg strength of the gods, really worth a follow as he heads towards Tokyo 2021, where he probably won't compete because Belarus only gets one main and one female spot, and it's probably not going to be him. But you never know, it might be, and if it is, he might even get a medal. Moving over to Armenia, but sticking with the 89 kilo category, we have probably the most internally rotated person I have ever watched, spoken to, seen before in my life. It's Jakob, the 2019 world champion. This week he just hit a 215 kilo jerk. It's like a squat power jerk. It's deeper than most power jerks, but it's not below parallel. Maybe it's a power jerk. Yeah, that would make sense based on what a power is. It's a 215 kilo power jerk. The internal rotation is extraordinary, and I just love to see that kind of position overhead. He then also just hit a 160 kilo snatch, a 170 kilo above the knee hang snatch, where he literally flexes his spine slightly in the catch just so that he can get a little bit lower and meet the bar. This is the same thing that someone like Antonio Krastev, the legendary Bulgarian super heavyweight who snatched 216 kilos back in the 80s, used to do. Catch the bar, literally depress the scapula, flex round the back just to get a little bit lower and catch the bar. It's not something that you'd recommend to everyone, but when you're a world champion and when you clean and jerk 208 kilos at the world championships as an 89 kilo lifter, that's just something you can do. Okay, next we have a weightlifter that I've never mentioned before he's originally from Austria, but he now competes for Bulgaria. I found out about this guy via Ian Wilson, the GOAT, who showed me his Instagram account, and I then started speaking to David Fisher. That's the guy we're talking about now, or maybe David Fisher, I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. He's been sending me some of his lists because he doesn't post that often, but he's only 21 years of age. He's a 109 kilo lifter, and he just posted a video of a 230 kilo rack jerk. Now, as amazing as that is, and of course that's like 10 kilos under the world record, he also hit a 190 kilo snatch, which he hasn't posted, but he sent me, which you'll be able to see here. And he also told me that he hit a 230 kilo clean and jerk, which he hasn't posted. So 190, 230 for a 109 Bulgarian who we've never even heard of is really exciting stuff. Not sure when he's going to start competing again properly. He's told me that he wants to win the gold medal in the 2024 Olympics. And I mean, he's got the talent for it, hasn't he? 190, 230, age 21. By the time he's 24 years of age, who knows, maybe he's going to be the kind of guy who gets close to 200, 240, because that's kind of what it's going to have to take, I think, to be the best in this 109 category. Over to the greatest of islands, Great Britain, we have two really phenomenal lifters this week. The first is Freya Morrow, 55 kilo Freya Morrow, powered by donuts, I think is a tagline on Instagram. She hit 100 kilos in squat jerk. Now, considering her best clean and jerk is 107, and she's always had an amazing jerk. I think she was a gymnast before, so she locks out well. She gets the back knee down. Her body awareness is just kind of ridiculous in the split jerk. but she started doing a few squat jerks in this last training cycle. And last week, her coach called for a 1 rep max in squat jerk, something that she'd never done before. She ended up actually taking 2 attempts at 105, but couldn't quite make them. But 100 kilos for something that's relatively untrained as a movement is ridiculous. So anyway, shout out to Freya for hitting that 100 kilo squat jerk. And then sticking with Great Britain, we have the queen of weightlifting, the self-proclaimed barbell queen, Sarah Davies, who just hit a really, really nice looking 120 kilo clean and jerk in training. Now, considering that her best clean and jerk is, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 125 kilos from the 2019 Europeans in Batumi, Georgia. This is just 5 kilos below that, and it looks really comfortable. It certainly looks like when the time comes, not only is she going to clean that 128, but she's actually going to hold it overhead, because she has been very close to those kind of numbers before, but just never been able to stick the jerk. But it does look like she's in a position now where 100, 130 might be numbers, maybe even more in the snatch, that she's entirely capable of by the time the Olympics comes back around. Up to Canada, we have my boy Alex Bellemare, who hit he's 81 kilos. I should probably say that first. He has bests in the snatch of 154 kilos, best clean and jerk of 184, and he just hit a power clean plus pause jerk triple. So power clean, pause jerk, pause in the dip, tremendous exercise, just really helps develop a straight dip and drive, and of course explosive strength, all that sort of stuff. So it's a power clean plus a pause jerk plus power clean plus pause jerk plus power clean plus pause jerk at 155 kilos, which is absurd when you realize that that's 84% of his best ever clean and jerk. I know people who can't power clean 84% of their clean and jerk. So to be able to do this power clean, pause jerk, triple complex is extraordinary. So Alex, I think, is in really great shape right now. Down south to the USA, we just have 2 of the bigger boys. We're going to start off with Kaiser Witt, who did actually compete at this Uzbek competition, but he didn't do so well, so I didn't really mention him. He went 2 for 6. He snatched 180. I think he missed 180 on his first 2 attempts. Kaiser Heart Attack Witt, I think we should call him, made 180 on his third. Then in the clean and jerk, I think he went 210, 220 miss. On his third attempt, the 220 that I saw, I would say was a make. Maybe I need to rewatch it, maybe I'm wrong. It looked like a make when I watched it. Maybe a bit of scapular depression, but it wasn't exactly like his elbow buckled a huge amount. But they didn't give him the lift, which I thought was a bit harsh. So he almost totaled 400. I guess he ended up with 390. But in training this week, he hit a 185 kilo no contact power clean, which is impressive enough, but plus push press. And the push press was, it's a really impressive push press, but also funny, just the fact that all 145 kilos of Kaiser Witt had to chase this bar around the gym in order to just get his center of gravity under the bar and actually press this weight out. But an enormous lift, not the sort of thing that I think any other American weightlifter could do. So shout out to Kaiser for that 185. And then we'll finish off with the USA with Wes Kitts, who just hit 160 kilos for a double in the snatch. He's doing well in the 2s to 3s rep range. So he did a 270 back squat double last week, a 160 snatch double this week, 200 kilo behind the neck jerk triple, and a 270 kilo clean pull double. So he's looking very strong in that 2 to 3 rep range. At some point that will transfer over into those heavier singles, hopefully sooner rather than later, but more importantly in a year's time rather than any point before then. And then finally we'll head over to Brazil, where we have the strongest man in the Pan American region, Fernando Reis, who just hit a 270 kilo back squat triple, which is good, not amazing, but he then hit a 310 kilo back squat double, which is a little bit more elite, the sort of back squat that is certainly worth a mention. I can't remember exactly the most he said he'd ever back squatted. I think it was 350. He told us the other day on the podcast, and I just can't quite remember for some reason. But 350 kilos, I think, rings a bell. 310 double for him is pretty good. Also, guys, whilst I am thinking of it, if you want to know my Olympic previews for Tokyo 2021, I did a podcast with Josh, aka the People Scientist, last week, which I just put up a few days ago from when you're watching this. If you want to hear us go through every single category at the Olympics, talk about who we think is going to podium and why, then head over to that. There's a link down below in the description for all of the podcast things. And before we get to the people's lifts, don't forget, head over to weightliftinghouse.com. You can get the most amazing looking weightlifting barbell on the market, to be honest. The best looking plates on the market too. I just think they're absolutely gorgeous. You can get thumb tape, you can get straps, you can get a book, t-shirts, hoodies. You can get loads of weightlifting equipment that you need. Also, head over to Virus International and use discount code weightliftinghouse. That gives you 10% off all Virus clothing. That works in not only Europe, but all of the USA too. So that's code weightliftinghouse. And gosh, that's probably just about everything. Let's do the People's Lift. So guys, if you want to be featured in the People's Lifts, just use the hashtag weightliftinghouse or the People's Lifts, or both hashtags. There's even a hashtag going around at the moment that's called the People's Lifts, but not good enough to be featured on the show. Also, it's like an extension of the hashtag, and it's filling out people who actually want to use it, but don't think they're good enough to be on the show. But let me let everyone know, I will put anyone on here if I think that the lift shows enough fight and passion. So don't worry about how much you lift. Okay, so having said that, we're going to start off with a Masters World Champion. So clearly it does help if you're quite good. We've got Shane Sevick, who is an absolute legend of the sport. He just went 120, 130, 140 in the snatch. That 140, I think, is a big comeback PR. He had surgery within the last 2 or 3 months. He had pretty major surgery, I remember. So for him already to be hitting 140 kilos, probably weighs somewhere around, he could be a 109, 102, somewhere in and around there. He said that he was inspired by the Weightlifting House footage of the Chinese lifters only using yellow plates, and so Shane decided to just lift with yellow plates. So I thought that was really awesome. He actually trains with the Weightlifting House barbell. He loves it. He has, I think, all of the different bars, you know, the work sounds, the Elecos, and he said to me before that he absolutely loves the Weightlifting House bar. So shout out to Shane, not only for the support, but for the epically inspiring Masters aged lifting. So guys, go follow Shane Sevick at SSEVCIK on Instagram. Next we have Miss Richards 64, who I picked mainly because she has such an amazing bar path. Now, she's not using a bar path app or anything, but the video is from the side, so you can just see the bar path perfectly. She hits what looks like 68 kilos for a snatch plus snatch balance, and she fixates the bar really smoothly. It's very nice, comes back off the floor slightly out and back down, and she meets it really nicely. So a huge lift there. That is Christina Richards. She's a 64 kilo lifter. So guys, go follow Christina at Mrs. Richards 64 on Instagram. Next we have Holly, aka Holly Jernigan, Hollie-Jernigan, the 71 kilo North Carolinian champion, something like that. She just hit 107 kilos in the jerk, which is just fantastic. Went for 110, missed it behind. I thought that she went for 107 again, but if you look carefully, she slipped on a couple of the fractional 1.5 kilo plates, so she sneaks those on instead. But even so, 107, tremendous jerk from Holly. So guys, go follow Holly, the 71 kilo North Carolina state champion, at Holly Jernigan, HOLLIE-JERNIGAN. And finally, we have quite the epic video from Stephen Charles, who posted a video that he, the self-proclaimed extra video, and it was quite extra. He did a lot of cuts, a lot of edits, a lot of fancy things with the camera that I'm not sure I know how to do. But what's great about this video is not only does it have some top lifting from him, it also really nicely showcases the Weightlifting House thumb tape that tears so easily. He's got the flag behind him. So I just thought, you know what, Stephen Charles, you put in so much time making this video that includes so much Weightlifting House stuff, which is so amazing for me to see. I'm going to give you the airspace so that the hopefully tens of thousands of people watching this get to see that as well. So Stephen, shout out to you for making that video. Hopefully it's playing so everyone can see it. And yeah, guys, go follow Stephen Charles at Stephen_Charles, STEVEN_CHARLES. That is the end of this week's episode of the Weightlifting House podcast. If you want more, if you want to support the show, if you want extra podcasts and videos and programs, for the price of a mocha frappuccino latte a month, you get all of those things every single week at patreon.com/Weightlifting House. You can join the something like 600 other people who are supporting the podcast and the videos through Patreon. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the podcast, and I will catch you all next week for another episode of the Weightlifting House News Show.